Good morning, you lovely people. Today's devotion is taken from Mark chapter 6, verse 45, where it says, "Immediately Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to Bethsaida while he dismissed the crowd. After leaving them, he went up on a mountainside to pray. When evening came, the boat was in the middle of the lake, and he was alone on land. He saw the disciples straining at the oars because the wind was against them. About the fourth watch of the night, he went out to them walking on the lake. He was about to pass by them, but when they saw him walking by, they thought he was a ghost. They cried out because they all saw him and were terrified. Immediately he spoke to them, and he said, 'Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid.' Then he climbed into the boat with them, and the wind died down. They were completely amazed, for they had not understood about the loaves, and their hearts were hardened. When they'd crossed over, they landed at Gennesaret and anchored there. As soon as they got into the boat, or got out of the boat, people recognized Jesus. They ran throughout that whole region and carried the sick on mats to wherever they heard he was. And wherever he went, into the villages, towns, or countryside, they placed the sick in the marketplaces. They begged him to let them touch even the edge of his cloak, and all who touched him were healed." Now, this incident on the lake happens after a long, difficult day spent ministering to the spiritual and physical needs of the multitude at the feeding of the 5,000. It left Jesus absolutely exhausted. But that hard day drove Jesus to prayer, not from prayer, as he went up on a mountainside to pray. And I believe this is something that we can learn, that when we are completely exhausted, let us also turn to prayer, not away from it. Meanwhile, he sent his disciples across the Sea of Galilee. And Jesus was praying in the heights above the sea, and he saw them straining at the oars as they attempted to cross the lake in the face of the wind. Unknown to the disciples, Jesus saw their difficulty and he cared for them. It was difficult to get across because a great wind was blowing. That is what it says in a parallel version in John 6:18. And it also tells us they had rowed for much of the night and had only come about halfway across the lake. They had rowed and rowed and rowed, and it was no fault of theirs that they made no progress because of the wind. Well, about the fourth watch of the night, which is somewhere around 3 a.m. in the early hours of the morning, Jesus came to them walking on the sea. He actually almost walked casually by them, because the Bible says he would have passed them by. But he came over to them only after they responded with fear and cried out. They thought they'd seen a ghost. He spoke kindly and gently to them. "Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid." And he climbed into the boat with them, and miraculously and instantly the wind died down. And also John's Gospel tells us that the boat was instantly carried over to the other side. A miracle indeed. So what was the purpose of this miracle? This was a miracle meant to assure his disciples that Jesus was in fact in control, and that he would always lovingly be there to help them fulfill what he had commanded. And do you know, no matter what we do in life, Jesus is in control and is always there to help us, to lead us, provide for us, and just see us through every difficulty and problem. Augustine, one of the church fathers, said, Jesus came walking on the waves, and so he puts all the swelling storms of life under his feet. Christians, why be afraid? And Isaiah 41 verse 10 says, so do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. That is how much our God cares for us. God bless you. Have a great weekend. See you next week.